We have a variety of NHL news and rumors to discuss today, including several signings. We have some injury updates. The Sharks have a new captain, and we have some more updates on the unsigned RFAs. We'll get into all the latest coming up next. So welcome back here to Top Shelf Hockey. Now we have a variety of things to talk about. First, let's start with some breaking news out of Winnipeg, which is one of the bigger pieces of the day. They've locked up defenseman Josh Morrissey on an 8-year contract extension worth $50 million. Now, of course, they have some other big-time RFAs to sign right now, including Laine and Connor, who need a contract for the coming season. Of course, Josh Morrissey could have been in that same predicament next summer, and of course, Kevin Cheveldayoff, with everything he's going through in those deals, certainly wanted to avoid that if possible. And with all the other losses around that blue line that the Jets have suffered this season, they certainly want to make sure they kept Morrissey in the fold. So I do think this is a very fair contract. 8 years, over $50 million, puts him in an average annual value of $6.25 million. It is a bit of a backdiving contract as well. His contract payout amount for the first year is around $8 million, when it drops all the way down to like 4.8 near the end. So it's a backdiving contract. Really, overall, I think it's a pretty fair value for what Josh Morrissey can bring. He's proven he can play top pair minutes. Was a longtime partner there for Jacob Trouba, of course, who was traded. So obviously right now, guys like Morrissey and Bufflin are certainly going to be anchoring that blue line for right now for Winnipeg, and I think this is a great deal and a great sign here for Winnipeg. In other RFA signing news, the New York Rangers have signed RFA forward Brendan Lemieux to a 1-year contract, $925,000. Of course, that leaves Tony DeAngelo to be the only unsigned RFA for the New York Rangers heading into training camp. Obviously, Brendan Lemieux certainly fit in well after being acquired from the Winnipeg Jets last year in a Kevin Hayes trade, so I do think he'll be a good part of their bottom six. He should get more of an opportunity than he did in Winnipeg, so it's a good deal for the team. It's a good deal for the player. He will still be a restricted free agent at the end of this 1-year deal as well. So overall, I guess we could be dealing with another contract for Brendan Lemieux next summer. So we'll see how things go, but certainly another good signing for the Rangers. Now on UFA news, the Calgary Flames have signed unrestricted free agent defenseman Michael Stone, who they just recently bought out. This is certainly puzzling, but of course when they bought out Michael Stone, they had no idea that Valimaki was going to go down with an injury and be out for a significant part of the upcoming season. So obviously that would have changed their plans had they known or been able to predict that that was going to happen. And I know there's many people out there who thought this wasn't even something they were allowed to do or possible within the rules of the CBA, but it actually is. I mean, there's nothing there that says a team can't buy out a player and then turn around and re-sign him. So ultimately, they've signed him to a league minimum contract, $700K, and of course, he'll be getting his payout from the buyout from the other contract that he had previously as well. So overall, I think it's going to work out that he makes $1.8 million for the coming season. So Michael Stone is back in the fold with the Calgary Flames. The only rule was around those compliance buyouts. The teams were not allowed to re-sign those players for at least 1 year, but for a regular buyout, there's nothing in the CBA that indicates a team can't do this, although it is not generally a common practice. If a team buys out a player, obviously that generally means they want to cut ties. But in many cases, we've seen and heard scenarios where the player would have been considered more valuable at a lower contract value because sometimes they don't live up to the amounts that they're originally assigned to. But ultimately, Michael Stone's back in the mix there. And the Flames have also brought in veteran defenseman Eric Gryba, who has certainly bounced around a fair bit in the NHL. He came in with Ottawa, played with the Oilers for a while, with the Devils, have been bounced around from other teams as well. So Gryba is now in camp with the Flames on a professional tryout. So we'll see if he can earn a spot. Obviously, having another veteran defenseman there certainly might prove to be valuable given the injury there to Valimaki and whatnot to the Flames decor. And of course, there still might need to be some more roster juggling in Calgary to fit in. Their RFAs will remain unsigned with Matthew Tkachuk and Andrew Mangiapane. Obviously, those two guys still remain unsigned, and we know that Matthew Tkachuk is going to be demanding a very sizable amount, which is going to cause some issues with their salary cap. We've seen rumors about Michael Frolik being traded. We've seen other times when it's more like a defenseman, like a TJ Brody. But given the state of the blue line, Brody likely isn't going anywhere, at least for the time being. But I could still see them visiting a guy like Frolik or another forward who could be moved out. So I do expect possibly throughout the preseason and training camp, the Flames are going to be working hard to get those other guys signed, which could result in some additional trades or roster moves to make the necessary space. The San Jose Sharks have named a new captain, and his longtime forward, Logan Couture, of course, who's done a great job, been a leader in this team for some time, under contract for a long period of time as well. He's proven to be one of their top players for a significant period of time, so he will replace the departed Joe Pavelski, who signed with the Dallas Stars. Now, fortunately for the San Jose Sharks, they are blessed to have a wide variety of leaders within that team. They don't necessarily need to wear a letter to provide that leadership, but obviously they got longtime veteran and former captain Joe Thornton still in the mix. They have a former captain there in Erik Karlsson. Brent Burns certainly plays a leadership role within that team as well, but I do think it makes the most sense to put the C on Couture. I know when we did a video back earlier in the offseason discussing next NHL captains amongst the teams who had vacancies, Couture was my choice for the Sharks. I do think he'll wear that letter proudly and certainly do a great job for the Sharks, so I think they made the right decision. Now, speaking of captains, the Ottawa Senators have announced that they're not going to be naming a captain for the coming season. They're going to be going with 3 alternate captains, which include veteran defenseman Ron Hainsey, who was newly signed, formerly of the Toronto Maple Leafs, and longtime Senators defenseman Mark Borieski, along with forward Jean-Gabriel Pageau. So that's what their leadership group will consist of for the coming season. They indicated that they don't really want to put a lot of pressure where they have a lot of their younger players, new to the NHL. I really want them to focus on hockey, not have to deal with the media a whole lot, which I do think is a good choice. I do have some good young players who look like they could become great leaders. For example, Brady Tkachuk, I think, screams captain material all over it, but he's only entering his second year. There's no need to put that extra added pressure on him for right now. Certainly with the state of the team and everything, I think this is a good move. Let the veterans kind of handle all that off-ice stuff, and let the young guys just focus on hockey, have some fun, hopefully learn and grow and continue to develop here. But I do think Tkachuk would make an excellent captain maybe in a year or two down the road. Now, staying with the Senators for a moment, defenseman Christian Wolanin unfortunately had a bit of a freak accident during training here over the last couple of days and now has a torn labrum and is going to be out of action for about 4 months, possibly a little bit longer. It's not a good injury to have. There's a long recovery process. It's really unfortunate news for the young defender who new coach DJ Smith certainly had hoped to get in to be a regular in the lineup for the coming year. I know he did a lot of training during the offseason to learn to play his offside because the Senators do have a lot more left side defense than they do right side, which was going to hopefully get him more ice time and a bigger role with the team, and now this happens. So it's a really unfortunate piece of news. So without that 4 months, he's likely going to be out till at least Christmas time, possibly into January or late January, early February. It's really hard to tell depending on how everything goes, but bad news there for Christian Wolanin. Now, sticking with some bad news for defensemen, Vegas Golden Knights defenseman Shay Theodore released an article through the Players Tribune today discussing how earlier this offseason he was actually diagnosed with testicular cancer. Now, fortunately for him, he was caught really early and has had surgery and made a full recovery. But basically, just to give you a quick summary of what happened here, and I'll link the article down in the description if you want to read what he wrote for the Players Tribune. He basically finished the season with Vegas, went to the World Championships with Team Canada, and over there, of course, they were going through some random drug testing. He was pulled aside after failing a drug test. The drug test ended up failing because one of the hormone levels was out of whack, and it was an unusual thing that they found, and they were telling him what normally causes that type of thing, which testicular cancer was one of the concerns. So soon enough, he ends up returning home, sees his doctor, gets tested, gets confirmation that he does indeed have testicular cancer, went through the surgery, and is now fully recovered. So he certainly had some unexpected things going down this offseason for sure. But fortunately for Shay Theodore, early detection was key. He had the surgery, he's fully recovered and ready to get back started here with his next NHL season, but certainly not the offseason he planned to have. Now, regarding the other unsigned RFAs, there's still lots of news floating around about what might be taking place with contract negotiations. NHL insiders Bob McKenzie and Darren Dreger indicate that guys like Marcus Pettersson in Pittsburgh are expected to sign soon. Like for Pettersson, for example, they expect a short-term deal to be signed over the next couple of days. Even Ivan Provorov and the Philadelphia Flyers are apparently getting really close. The dialogue the past couple of days have been exceptionally well. Really ever since that Zach Werenski contract was announced, that's really helped push things along. Same can be said for Charlie McAvoy in Boston. There are reports out there as well indicating that those talks have progressed, or at least heading in the right direction, and they're very optimistic that a deal will be reached soon. But ultimately, until that deal is signed, you just never know. We've seen some of these negotiations kind of, go different ways throughout the offseason. You hear reports indicating they're really close and maybe a deal will be reached here very soon, but then things go the other way. Now, as far as Provorov goes, like I said with the Flyers, he's close, but the opposite can be said for Travis Konechny, who is also unsigned RFA with the Flyers. Apparently, there's some major philosophical differences, I guess, that's being reported now on the contract negotiations for Konechny, and they do appear to be a ways apart. They apparently have different things that they're using to kind of substantiate what they feel is fair, and that they're having a very difficult time agreeing is what's being reported out there. So I guess we'll remain to be seen, but hopefully guys like Pettersson and Provorov are close and they can get themselves signed and in the training camp here over the next couple of days. So let us all your latest news and information from around the NHL. Of course, as always, we'll know your thoughts and opinions and everything we discussed here today. Let me know what you think, and we'll continue the conversation down in the comment section. Also, if you're new to the channel, consider subscribing and turning on your notifications so you don't miss any future videos. And give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. I'd appreciate it if you did. As always, thank you for watching, and I will catch you next time.